What's up, guys? Here we are again. I don't like talking about politics too much, but I have to put something out there. I live in California. We got smog, we got all that stuff that goes on here, and pisses me off that a lot of people talk on Facebook, oh, no smog. You can start deleting your diesels, and you can do this and you can do that, and it's legal, and they can't do nothing about it, and they're going to get fired, and smog shops are closing down, and they're not requiring smog. All these people do all this stuff for views, and it's all bullshit. All of it. It's all a lie. All of it. My parents just got like this like Ford RV thing or whatever. It's gas. They had to smog it. Vehicles come up, still have to smog them. Worked at a trucking company up here, and they just required up here where we don't really have smog. They are requiring smog now for semi trucks, and then they're trying to implement within the next year or two that you have to smog your semi truck 4 times a year. This isn't BS. This isn't hearsay. These are facts. You know what I mean? You have to understand too. I'm born and raised here in California. It is a beautiful state, but man, the politics are ugly here. Ugly, man, ugly. California always wants more taxes, wants to take more money out of your pocket in every which way they can. Your company gets taxed, then you get taxed before you even get paid. Everything you buy is taxed. Everything you own is taxed. To use what you own is taxed. What you purchase is taxed. I mean, God, everything goes on and on and on. You're taxed to death in California. And California is never going to give up money. It just ain't going to do that. It ain't golden for the people. It's golden for the government. The government always finds ways to take money. It was like Gavin Newsom. He was like, we've lost a lot of revenue because of electric cars, which, by the way, they pushed all the time. Most people do not drive electric cars. Most people drive gas vehicles or diesel vehicles in California, So he raised our gas tax. We pay like well over $1 a gallon in taxes in my county. And he wants to raise it even more than that per gallon. And then, on top of that, they're talking about, possibly implementing like, tax per mile that you drive your vehicle, and just a bunch of BS, man. And like everything that they do, you give California an inch and it takes like 10 miles, man. I'm telling you, every single time I turn around, they're trying to find some way to get more money out of you. Quite frankly, I mean, like me, my father-in-law, friends and people I talk to and hang out with and stuff, it's always the same thing. Eventually, they're just going to tax everything and make everything so expensive that it's just going to drive the state, all of the state, in poverty. Maybe the rich will stay rich and they'll keep doing good, but there ain't going to be no middle class no more. Everybody's just going to be either poor or rich. That's it. They're just, it's just getting to a point where it's just not sustainable. Me and my wife, we want to move out of California. You know what I mean? So, but, this is June of 2025, and I'll put a little screen thing up here showing it that, about the carb thing. You guys believe, or you watch these other channels that tell you that smart, it's all BS, man. It's a lie. All of it's a lie. First of all, California, if there's anything they're good at doing, is taking money from your pocket. So if you think they're going to give up smog and give up ways to tax you and hit you for money, you are sadly mistaken. First of all, if California does lose its right and ability to be able to enforce smog or set smog standards, which is possible, but it has not passed yet. If it does pass, then they can smog vehicles per federal level. And a tier 3 federal level smog inspection, right, is really close to a California smog inspection in a way. So not much is going to change. The only things that'll change, which is the main things that Trump are trying to get rid of, is the EV mandates. Freedom of choice. If you want to drive an electric car, you can. If you want to drive a gas car, you can. So get rid of that. It's pretty much mainly just attacking like the EV mandates, zero emission standards, and stuff like that. And that would be a long discussion getting into that, because the sad fact is, even electric cars are not zero emission. All the materials, the plastics and stuff, release chemicals into the atmosphere. The batteries have toxins in them that are not good for the planet. So there's no such thing really as zero emission. Anyway, unless you want to walk, maybe ride a horse or something, that's about it. Most of your electricity is produced by fossil fuels to charge your electric car. Your production and building of your electric cars built, again, a lot by fossil fuels and stuff. It's a fact of life, So, I wouldn't believe all that, wouldn't bite on it. And in my opinion, this is my thought on it outside of that, is that any way you look at it, like with anything else, even if they were to get rid of the emission stuff, which won't happen, but even if they did, they'll just find some other way to tax you or make it where you have to buy an electric vehicle. Nobody really talks about it, but I'll tell you something that happened in 2008, and I'll tell you something that happened not too long ago either. And if you do enough research, you'll find it. I can't remember exactly where I remember seeing it, but I remember them talking about it, and made a lot of people were talking about trucking industry and everything. Is that the Democrats are not against high gas prices. They like it, because the more expensive gas gets, the more they can paint the oil companies as being evil and gouging you and taking all your money. Never mind that they add $1.50 or whatever they charge extra in taxes and sales tax and emissions tax. Never mind that we pay almost more in registration than any other state. Never mind all the ways that they tax you and hit you just to drive your vehicle. Never mind that. They'll find a new way to tax you, or a new way to increase taxes and revenue for themselves at your cost, for you and your family. The Democrats are good here at finding ways around things. You know what I mean? So, never mind that our grid can't support charging all these cars, electric cars. So, what? What it comes down to, what? What are you going to do about it? There ain't nothing we can do about it. You know what I mean? At least not at this point in time. If we want to make changes and stuff, we got to start voting these people out of office and start letting them have all this power to control our lives and just ruin everything. Ruin everything. It's like they have no regard at all for the people they're supposed to serve. And it's bad, man. It's unbearable, because it's not just the smog. It's everything. You know what I mean? It's everything. I mean, when you go in and spend $5, $6, $8 or whatever, have you seen how much you pay in taxes? Walmart, anywhere you go to shopping, it's getting ridiculous, man. It's getting stupid ridiculous. And and it's crazy. It's crazy. So like I said, even if these things that pass, for the smog stuff, it's not to get rid of smog. It's just to make it California can't set its own standards for smog, which mainly is focused towards no EV mandates, so you can't get rid of gas vehicles and things like that. And if they pass, I can pretty much promise you and guarantee you that California's still going to do smogs, because they can. And then they can do it to a tier 3 federal level smog. You do your research, look into that, see that for yourself. It's not going to be much different than the smog we have now. The only difference is they can potentially force you to not get an electric car by 2035. But let's be honest again, Trump ain't going to be in the office by 2035. We don't know who it is. And if it's another Democrat or another person like that, that's going to vote and get rid of all that smog stuff, they're going to probably veto and overturn everything that Trump does anyway. So, California be put right back in the waiver, put right back into power again, or whatever else, you know what I mean? And it's just, would I want to make my decisions based off that, hopefully that type of stuff? I wouldn't want to do that. You could be asked out a lot of money. You know what I mean? And even by per federal smog regulations, you're still not allowed to temper none of your smog equipment on your vehicle. So if your truck was equipped with DEF, it still needs to have DEF, and that system needs to be functional for it to be legal at a federal level. You know what I mean? And that's for any vehicle, whether it be gas powered, diesel, it doesn't matter. Do your research, look into it, you'll see it. So don't believe all that. It's more BS and it's more lies, man. It's just, we won't know for sure how things are going to roll out because there's so many different possibilities. They can enforce that. They could do a roll test, 25 miles per hour, whatever it is that they do to check to see how much emissions your vehicle does at that speed, or do a tailpipe test or whatever. But I promise you, California's not going to give up a revenue of income. They're just not going to do it. They're not going to do it. So, and California CARB is not a federally funded institution. It is a state level state level funded institution, and we live in a super majority Democrat state. And most of those base of the Democrat stuff is a lot of it has to do with like the environmentalists and stuff like that. They want to keep them happy. They're gonna find some way to accomplish that, and they don't care what it costs you. They don't care that it would cost your family. They don't care about what they bring down. They don't care about it. You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to make this politically involved video, but I feel like it's important, to get that truth out there. Thank you, man. Peace.